This is Joy News Prime.
Welcome to Joy News Prime. Still Ghana's most comprehensive 2 hours of television news in Ghana. Coming up, Supreme Court in significant ruling orders Electoral Commission to, among others, delete from the voters register the names of all persons who are unqualified to be in there, especially the dead and those who registered with a national health insurance card. In another landmark ruling, the Supreme Court has struck out the law which says persons indicted for murder, rape, and narcotics cannot be granted bail. Vice presidential candidate of the New Patriotic Party, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, addressed his public lecture on job creation and accuses government in what he says is a fresh case of causing financial loss to the state. President Mahama is also due to speak to students at the University of Cape Coast on rising opportunities and entrepreneurship. We're hoping to bring you his speech live.
And coming up in business, head of European delegation in Ghana rejects suggestions signing onto the full economic partnership agreement will lead to the collapse of local industries.
Also in the bulletin, an American philanthropist combines the power of benevolence to wonderful effect. Following two Joy News stories. It's a particularly startling story you need to stay tuned for. There's also sport, entertainment, international news, and Joy News Interactive. My name is Israel I, and the bulletin is available across Europe on ABN television station. Now, Ghana's electoral register is reasonably not credible. The declaration by the Supreme Court. The Apex Court on Thursday questioned the credibility of the voters' roll and ordered the Electoral Commission to delete names of the dead and those who registered with the National Health Insurance cards as soon as possible. The court partially upheld an application by former youth organizer of the People's National Convention challenging the EC's decision to use the existing voters' register for the November polls. Abu Ramadan had argued that the register is compromised and cannot be used for the 2016 general elections. Joy News' Raymond Akwa was in court and filed this report.
From the Supreme Court's ruling, the EC has been directed to clean the voters' register by deleting the names of persons who were registered unconstitutionally in 2012. This means all persons who registered with National Health Insurance cards or registered as minors in 2012 should have their names deleted. Also to be deleted from the register are the names of deceased persons. The Supreme Court, in a unanimous decision, issued a caveat saying those who will be disenfranchised due to the new pronouncement must be allowed to re-register if they are qualified. They, however, declined to declare the current voters' register null, void, and unconstitutional. Former PNC youth organizer Abu Ramadan, who filed the case, welcomed the decision, adding that they will ensure it is implemented to the letter.
We're going to sit down and look at what other avenues open to us. This is not the end of the case, I can assure you. Okay. We are going to make sure that every legal procedure that is available to us would use that legal, even if it means on the day of election. Even if it means on the day of election, getting the last person deleted for the register to be credible, we'll do that.
But his lawyer, Nana Santi Bedietio, tells Joy News they will engage the EC to ensure the right thing is done.
We sought to inquire what the Electoral Commission was going to do to remove those names from the register. They said to us that as far as they were concerned, there was no problem with the register. We again wrote to them to tell us the number of people who used the NHIS cards to register, and they never responded. The first time I had any idea about the presence of the NHIS registrants on the register was when they told us in a meeting that they couldn't identify those people, whether in the database or with recourse to the forms. But they have told the Supreme Court, I mean, all of you heard them say to the Supreme Court that they can in fact identify the number of people who use the NHIS card by looking at the forms. The Form 1 is that all of us who are registered sign. Now, so if the court now gives an order that you should go and delete the names of those people and give them an opportunity to register. That should not be difficult at all. You are a public body. You're a constitutional body. We should take you at your word. If you say you can find those names, but we would want it to be through a process that can be verified by the plaintiffs, because it is their case. And so whatever steps they're taking, we would want to know that in fact those steps being taken do vindicate and comply with the court's orders.
On his part, convener of pressure group Let My Vote Count Alliance, David Asante, charged the EC to act transparently to ensure acceptability by all.
From where we stand and from the things the EC has told us previously, we know they do not have any problem practically at all in adding more names and after that deleting those who are there illegally or those who are ineligible and are there. So this is where we find ourselves. The EC has made us aware. They are aware of those who got there through the use of NHIS card. Delete their names. Give them another opportunity. Let them get there. But the interesting thing is that an order of the Supreme Court must not be executed covertly. It must be an open exercise for all the principal stakeholders to know the names you are deleting and how you intend giving them another opportunity to re-register. It's going to be tedious. It's going to be interesting. Our point consistently has been proved right. There are issues with the register.
Meanwhile, Deputy EC Chair Georgina Pokuo Amankwa says the Commission is yet to receive a statement of the judgment and will not comment until it has examined it.
The Supreme Court of Ghana had just ruled on the Amu Ramadan and Nimako case this morning. The EC is yet to get a copy of the judgment, study it, and then see what is actually in there. The good thing is that what the Supreme Court is asking the EC to do is something that already we have put in place a program and doing that. The nitty-gritties are yet to be found out in the judgment itself, which we are yet to be furnished with.
Now, the Students' Representative Council of the University of Ghana is calling on all stakeholders, especially the Electoral Commission, to ensure that all eligible students are given the right and opportunity to register. It follows concerns many eligible students eager to get their names on the voters' roll may be disenfranchised as a result of challenges with the limited voter registration exercise on campus. Some of the students tell Joy News they have had to wait for days to be registered because of the inadequate number of centers on campus.
For at least 2 days, and for all those days, it's only the second day that I've been actually able to go through the process, and I'm in the final stage, you know. For the first day, I came around 11 and left here like 5 without being able to register. For today too, I came here around 6:30, and through a hectic process, at least it's just now that I'm finishing with the first part, and then also another long queue to complete the second part. So it's a bit unsettling, because for a whole university of over 3,000 students, we have just one police station. People are coming all the way from other halls in the diaspora, the Alexander Coppons, which is far, and even from Jean Top Nelson, which is a little bit outside the school. And so it's really unsettling, and I don't think that is a good thing. That's one of the things that I find that the EC did not do well in doing. Yeah.
Very, very frustrated. Very frustrated. This is my second time of coming here. I was here yesterday, very early. Today too, very early as 5 a.m. I was here. Up till now, I have not been able to even write my name. We are approaching exams. Okay, on Saturday I have an exam. Most of us here have exams. You expect us to come and then write our names. You provide us with just one polling station. I mean, the whole Legon Hall population is more than, I mean, if you take a town, it's up to a town. Considering Legon Hall, Ekwafo Hall, I mean, the whole University of Ghana having just one polling station. So I think something should be done about it. If probably more polling stations could be provided to the University of Ghana, or probably extend the dates more. I only see just 3 people writing the names, just one machine taking the photo, and then one, I guess, for the lamination.
RSRC President Davis Ohene Fobi estimates that of the about 8,000 students eligible to register, less than 600 have been successful as of Thursday. He wants the Electoral Commission to provide more registration centers on campus as well as logistics to speed up the process before May 8 when the program ends.
Of Legon, we have only a single pool registration center for the over 8,000 students who are supposed to register, not mentioning the lecturers children who are on campus, other university workers children who are on campus, and other people in the electoral area who also access the same registration center. And with a single registration center, it's not even that we have a single registration center with enough machines that are able to register a lot of people. We have a registration center with only a machine that is doing the capturing of the data, and as such, the pace at which the registration is ongoing, it's very slow. The first day, only 61 students were able to register. The second day, 95. Third day, 87. Fourth day, 92. The fifth day, 130. The sixth day, 117 students people were able to register. As to whether all these people are students, we can't tell because we have other people on the campus. So after the first 6 days, we have 565, which is less than 600 people registering out of about 8,000 students that we are expecting. From the way things are going, we can anticipate that if it continues at this pace, by the time registration is done, over 80% of our eligible students will be disenfranchised. We want the Electoral Commission to come up with extra registration centers with enough machines that can cater for the number of students and other constituents who have to register to do that on the Legon campus. We started the petition on the second day of registration when we realized it was only a polling center that is having the registration. So my letter to the EC is dated 29th April. So the exercise started on 28th. The 29th, I wrote a letter to the EC. We followed up, but from what we are saying, it's not actually getting any impact. And if we also want to continue to do these background negotiations, time is not on our side, and we believe it's becoming more of a policy issue. And as such, I think the EC is thinking about the financial obligations and other things that are attached to the registration.
Now, the Electoral Commission, meanwhile, says it intends to provide more registration centers at the University of Ghana. Addressing journalists at a press briefing after a working visit of a delegation of the East Africa Community Forum, Deputy Commissioner Georgina Opoku-Amankwa acknowledged the challenges with the exercise, particularly the inadequate number of registration centers on university campuses.
The ongoing limited voters registration exercise, which began last week, has gathered some momentum after reports of a low turn characterized the first phase. One other challenge is the slow pace of the process in highly populated areas like the University of Ghana campus. Deputy Chair of the EC, Georgina Opoku-Amankwa, highlights some of the challenges of the process and how the Commission is dealing with them.
So far, so good, even though there had been some challenges and some hitches somewhere and elsewhere, which in some of the issues that border on criminalities, we are in discussion with the police, and this time around the law itself spells out what should be done to some of such culprits. So we will only deal with the police and have such people prosecuted so that we wouldn't have the incidence of such issues in the future. And then there are issues where the population is much larger than the team or just one registration center there. We are dealing with all those issues. Legon, for instance, we heard about it, and there's another team there. Tomorrow we are sending yet another team to ease the pressure there. Extension, no, as I sit here, no. There hasn't been any decision. But like you have indicated, after the exercise, we would look at it holistically and see whether it merits an extension. But as I sit here, we haven't taken any such decision.
The Deputy Chair of the EC adds that according to statistics, they are expecting to add not more than 1.2 million voters to the register after the limited voters registration exercise. Meanwhile, the EC has been hosting a delegation of the East Africa Community Forum. The visit is for a training program which included meeting the Electoral Commission to explore their structural and constitutional arrangements and how it performs its functions and duties. Leader of the delegation, Charles Njuroge, explains what he considers unique about the operations of Ghana's Electoral Commission.
I think respect of law, given that if there is any issue, either you're able to consult, solve the issue, or go through the court process. But you must respect the law, because you are the people who made the law, including the law creating the institution. Once there's a respect for rule of law, then the things will flow. But when people take things in their own hands, then it becomes a problem. And I think that's a good attribute.
You're watching Joy News Prime. We're taking a break, but we have more stories coming up. One of them being vice presidential candidate of the New Patriotic Party, Dr. Barima Osei, has been reacting to the Supreme Court ruling on the deletion of names on the voters register. We'll have that when we come back from the break. Please stay tuned. Welcome back to Joy News Prime. Now, we're going back to our earlier story, which the Supreme Court, that significant ruling coming out of the Supreme Court, ordering the Electoral Commission to, among others, delete from the voters register the names of all persons who are unqualified to be in there, especially those who voted, who registered with the National Health Insurance Card. The vice presidential candidate of the opposition New Patriotic Party, Dr. Barima Osei, has hailed the Supreme Court ruling, and he describes it as a vindication of their position.
Today, the Supreme Court finally ruled that, in fact, the voters register is not a credible voters register. We have said this for a long time, and so we expect the Electoral Commission to very quickly and immediately put together the modalities for addressing this issue and removing the names of all the categories specified by the Supreme Court. I think whichever way you look at it, if you're going to do this in the most efficient way, you probably will need a new register, given the millions of people who registered with the National
The Supreme Court has also ruled that persons accused of crimes such as murder, rape, and narcotics can henceforth be granted bail, striking down a nearly 60-year-old law. The landmark ruling by a 5-2 majority decision on Thursday declared Section 96, subsection 7 of Act 30 on non-bailable offences unconstitutional. The judgment comes more than a year after private legal practitioner Martin Kpebu filed a suit challenging the law. He has been speaking on the issue. All right, before we come to Martin Kpebu, the private legal practitioner who filed the suit, we have been joined on the phone line now by legal practitioner Samson Ladi Ayenini. Good evening to you, Samson. What do you make of this ruling? It's quite a landmark and groundbreaking one, isn't it?
You're right about that, Israel. I find it as a policy-driven, progressive decision that upholds both the Constitution, the tenets of the Constitution, and the fundamental human rights of accused persons in Ghana. Article 19 of the Constitution is very clear that one who is accused of any crime, underline that any crime, is innocent until he has himself or herself pleaded guilty or has been proven guilty. What that means is that the situation where accused persons have had to suffer many years in jail because of the failure of the state to speed up trials is to be frowned upon. Even though the law says, for example, that if you spend a number of years in prison under remand and then you were found not to be guilty subsequently, you could be compensated for in money. I say that the wasted precious years are not compensable in cash. There is a recent case of Francis Asare, who spent upwards of 12 years in jail on remand on a murder charge, and he was released because my good friend Francis Xavier Sosu went to his rescue. There are investigations that have been done by our own Steph Kwame Boateng has revealed people have been in the jails on remand for upwards of 15 years without trial. All of these should not happen. The regime of non-bailable offenses categorization has been subject to abuse by bitter sexual partners, especially ex-partners. All they need to do is to raise a claim of allegation of rape or defilement against you, and you go to jail straight away on remand, and the trial may not take place in 15 years, and you are still there.
All right, Samson. Now you talk about the fact that this, upholds the fundamental human rights of the persons of suspects, but were there not any pluses to this law, actually? I'm sure the people who put the law together had some real good intentions.
Yes, there certainly were, but Israel, if I were your business associate and I needed to do you in, all I needed to do is to set you up with some narcotics or some felony or high crime allegations, and you will not be granted bail, and the case can travel for 20 years, and you'll be on remand, and I will enjoy my booty. So that's how bad it was. Except that what has happened now, I find three practical difficulties with it, or challenges that come with it. Right. Number one, we have poor or non-existing addressing systems in Ghana. The same Martin Kpebu, and I congratulate, who went to court recently, got the Supreme Court to say that people who stand surety for you will vanish and the court cannot find you. They should not be held liable. They cannot be imprisoned. And that was upheld. What that means is that now, if you commit murder and you are sure that you are the one who committed it, and you secure bail, or you commit a narcotic offense and you are sure that you committed it, and you are facing death sentence or life imprisonment or 50 years in jail, and you get bail, you'll be tempted. You are likely to be tempted to escape the jurisdiction. If you run away, you are not traced. Your surety will not be taken into prison. That is one temptation about it. Number two, I believe that it increases the temptation to want to seek to compromise and corrupt, especially local court members of the judiciary, because now the decision is now left absolutely to their discretion. So, for example, these cartels or cocaine cliques, and one is in trouble, they would seek to attempt a judge they seem to have done the research on and know has a poor, condition of service or is not well to do, and offer a hefty amount of money that may be difficult to turn down. Now, lastly, are we sure that in the next decade, for example, are we going to be able to provide or pay for the reforms or the facility that should make it possible for speedy trials, so that if you get bail, within a week or within a month, your trial is commenced and the process is dealt with? I was just referring to a case which took 40 years for a judgment to be concluded. What it means is that I could get bail, and the bail is as good as I am free for 40 years.
All right. Okay, thank you very much, Samson Ladiayeni. Samson Ladiayeni is a private legal practitioner and is the host of Newsfile here on Joy News. Now, this ruling, as we indicated, comes more than a year after another private legal practitioner, Martin Kpebu, filed a suit challenging the law. He has been speaking to Joy News.
The person is arrested. There are some small exceptions that the person could at least get to. But majority, they never got it. And as you heard from the Chief Justice today, as of today, there are over 200 people in Taiwan on this kind of studies alone. Over 200 of our fellow Ghanaians in Taiwan over this study. And that's only in Taiwan. We are not talking about all the other detention facilities all over the country. So you see that this man was very oppressive. Said that, because he could rot in there while the thing goes on in court, the knew was that it didn't motivate the prosecution to hurry up with the bill of indictment. So let's say Mr. A is said to have murdered Mr. B. You have instances, a majority of the cases over a year, and then the bill would not have been, the bill of indictment would not have been prepared. So the trial doesn't go on. And then in the meantime, the investigator would have been transferred. In the meantime, maybe the station officer would have gone on retirement. So many problems. As I said, my brother, you ask any lawyer, they will tell you that law was so oppressive. Okay. So now with this one, it just means that we all know, when somebody loses a dear one or such a serious offense, we are all reasonable. 1 month, 2 months, not beyond that. The police should finish their investigation. If they don't finish, the person should be out and about. So they are out and when. And please, the point we should make is that those category of cases, they take years to conclude. Okay, murder. Good. Recently, there was one who was kept in custody for 7 years. Yes. Before finally he came out, he was innocent. So for 7 years, the person was released. Last year, there are other cases that is reported on our network. This Justice for All program. You see how many people they brought out on bail. People spend 5 years, 6 years, and yet they still didn't prosecute them. It's an abuse of their rights. So it's better that the person comes out after 1 or 2 months, and then if you have any case against him, let it go to court and let the court decide.
Watching Joy News Prime. Up next, we bring you business news, but we have a lot more stories we haven't tackled yet, and you have to stay tuned for that. We'll be back in a bit. Right, Emmanuel Abajiafe is now here to bring us business news. Good evening to you, Emmanuel.
Good evening, Izzy.
And I'm just going to leave you to take it away.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much for joining me on business. The head of the delegation in Ghana, William Hanna, has rejected suggestions that signing onto the full economic partnership agreement will lead to the collapse of industries. The country last year expressed interest in signing the EPA. However, delays in signing the full pact by other ECOWAS members has affected the country's ability to go ahead with the agreement. But Mr. Hanna says acceding to the agreement will rather lead to the growth of Ghanaian industries and businesses.
I don't think the argument can be made at all. In the negotiations, every time that Ghana said that here we have an industry that we have to protect, we have been able to protect it. So there's not a problem. I think that Ghana is able to compete. Ghana has become a middle-income country and has done very well in recent years. And as a middle-income country, the challenges for the future in Ghana are to create jobs and develop the country further. And creating jobs further is going to come through investment, foreign investment, working with Ghanaian business as well. So for me, it's a win-win situation for the future. I don't think anyone should be afraid of the future. We've been talking about this for 15, 16 years. I think Ghana is certainly ready to compete in that market. Well, I think Ghana has shown that it's very committed to the Economic Partnership Agreement by concluding it here in Accra a couple of years ago. So there's no doubt about that. The question now is how to move forward, how to ensure that all countries come on board as soon as possible. And we're in discussions with them, with the Foreign Minister, with the Trade Minister, and this continues. And I think we all realize how much is at stake. So I'm sure we will find the right way forward. It's up to Ghana in the end to decide. They've shown strong commitment to the Economic Partnership Agreement. I think people understand what's at stake there, and we'll continue in very close contact as we go forward.
In a related development, Joy Business is learning that the country is likely to initiate the Economic Partnership Agreement by July. The latest news could mean that Ghana will have the agreement in place before the October deadline. Now, the Tema Oil Refinery has initiated moves to pay all its debts within the next 10 years. Part of the initiatives to settle its debts include arranging with the banks to change the debt into a 10-year bond, as well as using the toll component of the energy levy to pay the interest on the bond. In an interview on the Marketplace on Joy News, the Deputy Executive Director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy, Ben Boache, expressed the view that consumers had already paid toll's debt in full. According to him, the decision to convert the debts into bonds should bring some respite to consumers who have persistently paid the numerous tax components in the price build-up. Now, he noted also that the situation would inure to the benefit of consumers.
For the debt recovery levy, I mean, we have stated that as of December last year, consumers had actually paid all the debt of the oil refinery. The problem was that government was collecting the levy, and they were not paying the debt of toll.
Okay.
So now that we have a structured approach to paying the debt, it makes sense for government to take the levy off the petroleum products so consumers can have some relief. Because globally, oil prices have come down, and in Ghana, we're not seeing the effect of the prices because of the heap of taxes and levies that are on the product. So it's an opportunity for those, for that levy in particular, to go off the products at the pump, so that consumers can have that relief, and that also spare growth in the industry. The estimation we have done, if you show up to December 2015, about close to $1.9 billion had been collected from consumers, and that was about equivalent to all Tema oil refinery debt since the levy was instituted, and interest. So if they still have debt on their books, then it means, what it means is that government has not been paying, even though they're collecting the levy from us. And that is why they still have debt to clear on their books. Okay. But now, whatever debt it is, we don't know how much is left. But if they have structured approach, now to raise bonds and repay their debt over time as they make profit, then it doesn't make sense at this point for us to continue paying the levy at the pump. And that's the point I was making.
Still within the petroleum industry, Group Chief Executive of Tullow Oil, Aiden Havey, has been speaking about Ghana's second major hydrocarbon development, the Twineboa Enyira and Ntome 10, which is expected to produce oil and gas by July this year. Aiden Havey says the 10 projects, despite being pursued within a period of oil price volatility, remains very important to the company, and that everything is being done to ensure production targets are achieved come the middle of the year. He was speaking to correspondent George Riafi.
We've reacted very quickly to the changes in the industry. The industry's been through these changes in the past, and I think what we have done is we've reset the business very, very quickly to this new environment, and whatever that is. If this is the oil price environment we have to look forward to the future, then we're geared for it. And the big issue that we've always had is the capital expenditure that we were incurring on the 10 project here in Ghana, and that expenditure finishes in mid-year, and then the 10 field comes on stream. So from then on, the business is cash positive. We have a number of operations here, obviously. The 10 project is a very important project, and we took a decision very early on that we were not going to cut any costs in 10. Our priority was to make sure that 10 was delivered on time and on budget, and I think we will achieve that. So you would have seen from the presentations this morning that the major work has been completed on 10, and we're on target to start production mid this year. The other part of the business, there have been cost cutting, as there has been throughout the whole of the Tullow organisation, and what we've been trying to do there is make sure that we are profitable as a business in low oil prices. And so we had to cut a lot of costs. We had to cut a lot of labour costs throughout the organisation. But we also had to get stuck into the service costs in the service industry to make sure that Tullow, as a business long term, could be profitable at these low oil prices.
Now, the implementation of the local content law is inuring positively to the benefits of indigenous companies in Ghana. That's according to the CEO of the Petroleum Commission, Theophilus Ahwering. The implementation of the local content law has always raised questions in the area of SMEs in the country, with some allegations that local SMEs are yet to get a fair share of oil and gas investments in the industry. Speaking to Joy Business, however, CEO of Petroleum Commission, Theophilus Ahwiri, said the implementation of the local content law has now boosted local participation. He said the Commission further seeks to rake in more investment with the drafting of a petroleum exploration and production measurement regulation.
I think it's been very successful, considering the fact that we've just had first oil in the last 5 years. The extent to which indigenous companies are participating in this sector is very impressive. We currently have in total over 500 companies that are operating in the sector, out of which over 300 of them are indigenous. A few years ago, there weren't that many companies that could service this industry. And for this very short period, we are pleased about what is happening. In terms of the spend of investment that are happening in the country, we currently estimate that we are inching towards between 15 to 20% of the spend that is happening in Ghana, which is good.
Okay. Can you briefly tell us how this metering system is going to improve investment in the sector?
Investors like what we call regulatory predictability. They want to go to an environment where they know what the rules are written on a paper, approved by the parliament of the country. This document would give the investors some certainty that at the end of the day, their investment to be safe. So it will basically enhance the money that we attract.
Thank you.
All right, so it's now time to go to the stock market. John has joined me to give us the updates. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Emmanuel.
All right, so what's the update on the stock market?
As usual, not that much difference, but some activities actually being raised. We had a volume of 773,385. Quite some improvement over yesterday's. It was quite good at a value of 146, meaning that most of the shares actually traded were not of higher values. We call them lower cap equities that actually traded today. The market has actually moved from 54 billion to now 53. Gradually it's losing value over the period. It's making most of them equities listed on the market losing value. That's exactly what it means. From 54 billion to about 53 billion, that's quite significant a decline there of the market capitalization. So, I mean, people to actually take note of that. What it also means is that the value of the companies, the various companies listed on the exchange, keep losing value even though the infrastructure and all the installations are intact. That's what we call the market value. That's how it's actually calculated. So the CI is actually standing at the moment 9.44, a bit of an increase from 7.50 to 9.44. And then the financial index also increased from 11.24 to 12.57. That tells you that the market is actually not doing well. And that is how come the market players are calling for government to actually regulate some of these industries so that foreign companies can actually list onto the Ghanaian bourse after 5 years of operation here in Ghana, so they can actually whip up activity levels on the market. And today, Benz Oil Palm lost 5 pesos, Carbon did lose 5 pesos, EGA lost 5 pesos, and ETI also lost 2 pesos. Basically, all these equities, apart from Carb and ETI, most of them aren't financial stuff, but they are losing, marginally. And of course, 5 pesos is quite big. Apart from that, most of them are quite marginal. Now, on the commodities side of it, crude actually been able to gain its last 2 weeks value of $45.11 per barrel after it gained about 58 cents. And gold is losing $7.13 to be trading around 1,275. Quite a significant improvement. That's almost about 10-month high over the period. So gradually, gold is recovering itself, even though today it actually lost quite significantly. But then, if you compare month on month and year on year, it's actually doing well for the past, I think, 10 to 11 months. The currency, the cedi, is not also doing well against the United States dollar. So gradually losing that grip it had on the dollar. It's actually lost it for the past, I think, from Monday till now. It's actually lost that particular one. It lost to the US dollar, but gained against the British pound. Lost against the euro, but the Chinese yuan still remained quite on the downside against the cedi. And then the CFA is still strong by the city. So that's basically how the market is. Let's see how it closes tomorrow after some of these interventions do actually come to play. But like I said, the market players are saying that foreign companies must be allowed to actually list on the Ghana Stock Exchange so that after 5 years, people can actually buy into it. So you and I can buy into it. So they don't sort of like repatriate all their profit back home.
All right.
And then we keep some of these things here in Ghana so we can strengthen our currency, Emmanuel.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So for more business information, stock updates on the stock markets, do join the Business News for the details this evening. Good night.
Welcome back to Joy News Prime from the Business News. Now, the vice presidential candidate of the New Patriotic Party, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, is threatening to expose government or a transfer it made to one of the country's commercial banks from the Bank of Ghana. The transfer, according to Dr. Bawumia, a former deputy governor himself, amounts to causing financial loss to the state. He is demanding a reversal of the transfer, else, he says, he will name the commercial bank involved. He was addressing students at the Accra Polytechnic on the state of youth unemployment in the country.
This government allocated transferred the $250 million from the Bank of Ghana to an account for the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund at a private bank. They moved the money from the Bank of Ghana to a private bank. And it's just amazing. With no project to execute. But what is most amazing is that now the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund has now turned around to buy treasury bills with this money. They have now turned around to use this money to lend to government. Can you imagine what is happening? That I go and borrow money, I come and I give it to you, and you now tend to lend the money to me again. I'm paying interest for the money I borrowed outside to give to you, and I'm now paying interest to you for lending me my own money. Ladies and gentlemen, this is unbelievable. How can government go and borrow funds from the international capital market at 10.75% and give the same funds to another party and then borrow these same funds from them at 22% plus? If this is not causing financial loss to the state, I don't know what it is. It is an example, a practical and real example.
Now, a group of privately trained nurses seeking to be given jobs in the public service have described as untenable the reasons given by government for the delay in hiring them. Nurses until a few years ago were guaranteed placement in the public service after their training. There are hundreds, however, who have remained jobless for several years after graduating. The majority of them having attended the state-owned nursing colleges. Government has explained it will give priority to those trained with the taxpayers' money in the placement of nurses in the public sector. Those who attended the private nursing schools, however, say the policy is unfair. Their spokesperson, John Nketia, led a number of them to Joy News on Thursday to register their displeasure with the way government is treating them.
Case happens to be a little bit complicated. At a point in time, maybe I completed, and because I'm from a private school, you realize that most of us from the private institutions, we even sit for the same exams, and you realize that we have to be failed simply because they can't post us. Finally, you have to go through writing here and there. I vote for the second time, and finally I have my certificate. It's from the Nurses and Midwife Council, you understand? And this is not any different from those coming from the government side. Yeah, so now after I've passed my exams, you give me my PIN, I register with the council, my school is accredited, it's on the form. Okay, why don't I deserve to be posted? Yeah, so the president is saying that just last year we had some of the private nurses being posted. Yeah, it is true. Some were being posted, but that is not enough. For the past 4 years, we've been at home. People passed from 4 years ago and they are still at home, not being posted. So now if you just have to take a very small sum of people and post, then you say that is all, then you are not being sensitive to us, just like my sister on the other side said. So I think there is no need for us to be sidelined. We've been sidelined. We went to the Flagstaff House just like the other people said, yeah, and they don't even want to allow us. We didn't go for demonstration. We said we wanted to do some picketing so that they also hear our voice. The general populace would know that, yeah, we're also around. We deserve to be posted.
This problem is just a new thing in the system, because formerly it was not like that. Even when President Atta Mills was around, it was never like that. You never heard of nurses, you know, when you finish, you have passed, you register with the Nurses and Midwives Council, you are given your PIN or your license to practice. the forms is out, you purchase yours, you know, the posting comes in, and whether private or government, we are all posted. And so we don't understand why lately there's a saying that this is private, this is government, this is bonded, and this is that. You know, why? What's the meaning of bonded? They were trained with the taxpayers' money. I am a taxpayer. My mother is a taxpayer. My father is a taxpayer. Whoever saw me through my education is also a taxpayer. It is our money that was used to train these people. And so if we are to really analyze the two of us, which one of these groups is supposed to be posted or is supposed to find the job quicker than the other? Because when they finish and they are even at home, they are given allowances. We receive nothing.
You're watching Joy News Prime. Up next, we bring you international news. All right, so we'll be getting to, Aisha is here to tell us about what's coming up on Joy News Interactive, but there's something else that I'd want to show to you on social media. It's the presidential address. President Mahama is addressing students at the University of Cape Coast at the top of the hour, that's at 8 o'clock, and he indicates that it's on rising opportunities, entrepreneurship, and a change in Ghana. So the address is supposed to be at 8 o'clock. We're hoping to bring you that in the second hour of the bulletin. But Aisha is here right now, so she's going to tell us what's coming up on JNI.
Of course, that plus a lot that will happen on Joy News Interactive on Prime News, because one, the Supreme Court has ruled that persons accused of crimes such as murder, rape, and narcotics can henceforth be granted bail, striking down a nearly 60-year-old law. Do you think that will pose a threat to society?
It's not good. Yeah, because if the person has raped somebody, you see, that person has to be sent to jail. You don't have to bail the person.
And then we'll also be looking at caterers and the school feeding program who are demanding an end to electronic method of paying by the government. According to the caterers, the new mode of payment is paving way for fraud. So how else can they be paid?
As formerly they used to pay them by checks, they should go back to that order, because in the mobile money payments, most of the times when you go to withdraw such monies, you are deducted some tariffs. So when you go back to the check payments where they go and then they get their full payment, I think they will be okay, because such programs come with dedication and commitment, and such people have to be motivated as such.
And finally, would you keep a snake as a pet? That's a multi-million-dollar question, huh?
I don't think so. Why? Because I don't like snakes, and I don't think it's safe for me to keep them as pets at home.
Well, I'll return shortly to read your comments on the trending issues. Please stay.
Right, certainly you'd have to stay for that. That comes up in about 30 minutes, but we also have entertainment and sports coming up in the second hour. Please stay tuned. We'll be back in a bit. Let's first do a quick recap of our top stories. The Supreme Court, in a significant ruling, has ordered the Electoral Commission to, among others, delete from the voters' register the names of all persons who are unqualified to be in there, especially the dead and those who registered with the National Health Insurance Card. In another landmark ruling, the Supreme Court has struck out the law which says persons indicted for murder, rape, and narcotics cannot be granted bail. The vice presidential candidate of the New Patriotic Party, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, has addressed a public lecture on job creation, accused government in what he says is a fresh case of causing financial loss to the state. In business, head of European delegation in Ghana rejects suggestions signing on to the full economic partnership agreement will lead to the collapse of local industries. Right now, moving on to other stories. Now, last year, Joy News' Upper East Regional Correspondent Albert Sori told the stories of two disabled persons, Samuel Ako Yage, university graduate at Wali, who was almost at the point of begging for arms to survive despite his university degree, and Joseph Atanga, 24-year-old who suffered cerebral palsy at birth and stayed confined to his home under deplorable conditions almost all his life. Following the two stories, an American philanthropist, Michelle McGowan, came to the aid of the two, helping someone to start a livestock farm, and so constantly helping Joseph with basic necessities to enable him live a more decent life. Now, that story is one story that I'd want to show to you, but right now, I'll bring you that story later. Right now, in mid-March this year, two communities in the Jusu municipality in the Ashanti region were invaded by snakes. Hundreds of people abandoned their homes in the community for fear of snake bites. But today, here in the capital, one man is hunting snakes for a sale to make a living. Enoch Mate calls himself a businessman whose interest is quite awkward to many, including myself. Joining us is G5 Kege has been speaking with a snake vendor on his inspiration, dangers he faces, and his client base.
There are many street vendors lining up the major streets of Accra with different items. From consumables to household items, everything has a space on the streets. Typical of these hawkers, they rush to vehicles immediately they pull over or get caught up in traffic screaming for attention from prospective buyers. But how would you feel if someone walks up to your car with snakes for sale? Awkward, right? But that is the venture Enoch Mate prides himself off.
For some people, just the encounter with the word snakes send them running. And for the so many jobs and trade that can be found in Ghana, Mr. Mate has decided to go into snake selling business.
He patrols the Achimota Pokwasi Road with live reptiles coiled around his neck, calling for buyers. That's how he makes a living in an economy he calls difficult. Though admits he is exposed to some degree of danger hunting and selling snakes.
We beating, but we get poison snake and we get local snake. It's like royal python they get poison. Africa python don't get poison. But cobra and the power fathers and others they get green members and they get poisons. So I know poison snake and I know local poison snakes. Oh, 92 outside the work. My master, my cash car, will show me how they do that. In first I fear, but he show me how they do it. So before a week, 2 weeks later, I'm okay. 92, I started for my master there before I come the roadside. The roadside there, some about 2013. 2013, I come the roadside. So I started 2013 up to this. Snake there, I go far. First, sometimes I go Benin, whereas can export one. But now I come roadside, I go for the adults who like the areas. Village, Accra areas, Ubon areas.
A business like this may not look lucrative from a distance, but Enoch tells me he couldn't have found a better means of earning an income. He shares how he gets people to patronize his business, and for pricing, his strategy is relative to whoever wants to buy the snakes.
ACB Junction here, no one says mangoes. If you need some, you come now, I'll sell it for you. If you park your car, if you there, I show my price. You pay me, they'll take it go. If you see where they say. Some people know my number. Someone you don't buy for the roadside, but I take my number. Then if you go there, call me. So if you call me, then I go meet them. That you pay me, then I take give them. So I get small sacks. If you buy it, I take put inside the sack. I take give you. When you collect my money. So when I come, do promotion. I take one here, then promotion buy one get one free promotion. Ghanaian people buy, foreigners people too buy. So the price will not be one price. I watch your, your dressing and your car numbers. Are you the things before I give you the price?
So the next time you are driving on the Achimota Pokwasi stretch, look out for Enoch Mate. Maybe you will be attracted to buy a snake for a pet.
All right, you're still watching Joy News Prime, and we're hoping to go back to Cape Coast for the President's address on rising opportunities, entrepreneurship, and the change in Ghana. The program hasn't started yet, or the President hasn't started speaking yet, but we're hoping that we would have that in the next few minutes. Immediately we do, we're going to bring you that one. Now, last year, Joy News' Upper East Regional Correspondent Albert Asare told the stories of two disabled persons, Samuel Akoyage, a university graduate at Wale Wale, who was nearly begging for alms to survive despite his university education, and Joseph Atanga, a 24-year-old who suffered cerebral palsy at birth and stayed confined to his home under deplorable conditions almost all his life. Following the two stories, an American philanthropist, Michelle McGowan, came to the aid of the two, helping Samuel to start a livestock farm and constantly helping Joseph with basic necessities to enable him live a more decent life. In the latest development to the story, Michelle McGowan has put up a more decent home for Joseph in his hometown of Sirigu, using Samuel as a coordinator for the building project. Upper East correspondent Albert Asare has been following the story in our report.
Joseph suffered cerebral palsy at birth. The condition made his limbs stiff, and therefore he cannot move about on his own. His speech is also partially impaired. In Joseph's hometown of Sirigu, children born with his kind of condition were often labeled spirit children and killed. But Joseph's family was unwilling to kill him under the label of a spirit child. When Joy News visited Joseph for the first time in January 2015, he was very dirty. His poor family could not properly take care of him. After Joy News aired his story, it caught the attention of American philanthropist Michelle McGowan, who has some charities in Ghana. Michelle then visited Joseph at Sirigu on 2 occasions with food supplies, toiletries, and clothing. As time went on, I told Michelle the story of Samuel Akoyage at Wale Wale, whose news story had been aired on Joy News a month before Joseph's. Samuel was begging for alms to survive despite successfully graduating from the University of Education, Winneba. Michelle took Samuel also on board and helped him with some capital to start rearing livestock, through which he has built a shop yet to be stocked. This year, Michelle decided to put up a new home for Joseph and his family at Sirigu because their old home was dilapidated. She put Samuel in charge of Joseph's building project.
It was through Joy FM, a news story that you had on YouTube. Somebody told me that I needed to see this Samuel. I saw his story, that he was a university graduate from Winneba. However, he couldn't find employment because of his disability. So I gave him the money to start his own business. I heard the story about Joseph was also through Joy FM. The first thing that came to mind was, how can I help this guy? He has a different kind of disability than Samuel has. But Samuel is so capable that he was my go-to person whenever I found out about Joseph. How can we help him? So our initial idea was to drill a water well for him, but we found out there was one already on the property. So the brothers asked that we reconstruct the home because it was in a very debilitated state. So I contributed $1,000 of my own money and raised funds for the other portion. And we're here today to build a house for Joseph.
Samuel told Joy News he was happy to help a fellow physically challenged person.
I got in touch with Michelle through Joy News story carried out by their correspondent, Mr. Albert. And then through this, I have received tremendous support from her.
10 days later, work was over, and this beautiful 4-room building replaced the old dilapidated structure Joseph and his family once lived in. In addition, Michelle McGowan put up a pen with 2 pregnant pigs as a source of income for Joseph's family. She spent a total of 3 nights at Joseph's village home together with Samuel, who spent the entire 10-day duration of the project in Sirigu, dozens of miles away from his home in Wale Wale.
Joseph is completely dependent on his senior brothers for everything, for cleaning, feeding, everything. So we want to create something for the family to make some money so that they can take very excellent care of Joseph so that he can live a long, healthy, and very happy life.
Great story there, and thank you, Michelle McGowan. Now, one of the stories I've been talking about all evening is the anticipation of the President's address at the Cape Coast University. It hasn't happened as yet, but we have Richard Kojo-Nyako who's standing by at the University of Cape Coast to tell us why, probably, if he knows why he hasn't started. Good evening to you, Richard.
Good evening, Israel.
All right, so we're expecting the President to speak at 8 o'clock on rising opportunities, entrepreneurship, and changing Ghana. Why hasn't the program started yet?
Well, Israel, welcome to the University of Cape Coast, the new examination center, and the center is filled to capacity. There are others who are interested go inside. The President hasn't arrived yet. The place has been nicely decorated, but no reasons have been offered yet. I have seen a lot of security persons here, and Israel, there has been no reason that the organizers here have given why the program that is going to start at 8 has not yet started.
All right, thank you very much, Richard Kojo-Nyako. But some other information we're getting is that the national broadcaster, which is supposed to be streaming or showing the address live, says that they're looking at showing it at 9 o'clock now. So that's the very latest information we're getting. And when we get that, we would bring it to you. Up next, we bring you entertainment. All right, we have our entertainment guru, Ms. G, joining us to give us entertainment. You're a guru,
That's
aren't
like
you?
a title.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because
anyway,
and
coming
again,
from
you hobnob with the famous people.
Oh, like
and all
yourself, enter privilege. But coming from me, I need to cut that and make it an endorsement before I start the show every time,
That's cool. You can do that.
Okay. All right. So how are you doing, Israel?
I'm well. How are you?
Okay, I'm very, very well. But someone who looks unwell is Asem. A-S-E-M.
I heard that he's looking quite frail and lost quite a bit of weight.
Yes, he
But
told us.
why would we say that he's looking unwell because he's lost weight?
Well, not because he's lost weight.
Okay.
We're used to seeing Asem as a plump Asem.
Right.
Now he decides to go on a weight loss regime. That's okay.
Okay.
That's very fine. But he looks, like people say, scary in the new pictures he's released on his Instagram page, and he's been trending all day because his fans are asking questions. Is Asem okay? If you see the pictures of Asem and juxtapose it to the Asem we used to know, you're like, what kind of weight loss is this? You're not looking well. It's okay to lose weight, but you're not looking well. So why keep yourself this way? But he says, look, before you knew me as a star, this is what I used to be.
Really?
I love myself this way, but he truly doesn't look well, sorry. That's what people have been talking about.
Do we have the pictures?
Yes, we do have the pictures of Asem not looking too well.
So we're told that we don't have the pictures.
We don't have the pictures now, so we'll bring the pictures.
We have it now. So this
new pictures of Asem, and everybody's talking about Asem.
So do we have the before picture?
Oh, we don't have before picture because actually when you go on Asem's Instagram page, he's pulled down a lot of his old pictures, and he's not in town. This looks quite better than the first we saw. Yeah. So if this is what he looks like, I'm not sure a lot of people will be complaining, but he doesn't look too well to a lot of people. But in all this, people are saying that it cannot be Asem now. Maybe this was Asem when he was losing weight initially, but he's throwing those pictures out there because he has yet to release an album. So to get our attention, and then after we are done talking about his weight loss, he drops that album.
He drops it, the album and shows probably a better looking Asem.
Better looking Asem. So but he's been trending all day. People have been talking. A lot of people have shown concern, and Asem has refused to speak to anybody. he's not in Ghana, so you can't track him. But those who get in touch with him outside the country say he's not ready to speak to the media at all. So we're waiting for that album. And then I'm sure just when the album has been released, he will
Because I remember ASEM.
Asem, you know, and Obedantem, you know, that's the
well,
line
let's
that
see what
works
else
with
he
it.
comes up with.
Yes, let's see what happens.
He had
to
some
him.
great tracks in the past.
He did
some,
have great tracks.
Chart bangers. Yeah.
Okay. Fila. You remember that one?
Yeah.
So we hope for a lot more of those songs.
Right.
But you know, this young man called Mac Flavor Pounds, that's not his real name though. He's a comic actor. He featured in Yewokrom, Atom Yewokrom.
Okay.
He featured in the Fura series as well. And he's done some other local production. Yesterday we had news that he's passed on. And before he even passed on, an hour to he passing on, he went on social media, put a post thanking people who had prayed for him because he had been ill a while and hoping to get better, but unfortunately he passed on. So here's the story for those who do not know Mac Flavor Pound.
Wow. May he rest in peace.
Yes, exactly. May he rest in peace. Okay, so another person who has been trending today is John Dumelo. Actor John Dumelo has been trending.
Oh, my own friend.
Yes, he's been trending. Guess why he's been trending?
I don't know.
Well, we are told that he went to a school in the Volta region and he gave away 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 math sets and then tweeted that he had given away 100 math sets, and people were like, we've seen pictures. Yes, there are pictures to tell that he's giving out 6 math sets.
Yeah.
And so people are saying, this is not the reflection of what you've told us on social media.
Well, yeah, I mean, he may have handed over 6 math sets, but probably the others, package, the entire package was...
Nobody saw them in the pictures. They could have been there, you know, and we see pictures of them.
He said he gave how many? 100?
100 of them.
Yeah, they're in the headmasters. They're in the headmasters.
So why take the pictures of 6 of them?
Well, yeah, in the presentation you present just a few.
But in every presentation you see
because he
more.
can't. You see, he can't carry the 100.
The students were there to help him. You know, so that's why people have been talking. Then don't take pictures of the 6 at all, because this is what we can see and that's what we can work with. But he says, well, you can go on and say, you know, he posted something funny, saying you can reduce the number to even 5. But I said I gave out 100, you know. But that's the reason.
Otherwise, okay, he probably gave out 6 of them
and
for
he'll bring
the moment,
the 94
and then
later.
the 94 are on their way to the school.
He should have said that okay, the car I came with, because this morning I saw pictures of him actually saying that his bay, which is his Tundra, needed its tires changed. So maybe on his way, you know, the tire got off, and so the master
that's also a possibility.
It could happen. So we give him the benefit of the doubt, but we're waiting for people from that school to tell us what really happened there. You know.
Yeah, that's what we should be doing.
Yes.
We should be speaking to the school rather to find out whether
we'll
the messages have been delivered. But
exactly,
people have taken to social media and tweeting rather.
No, he took to social media first. We bring this to our next story. Now, have you heard of social media buying of followers and viewers for your videos and all that? I don't know if you've heard that.
I've heard that.
You've heard that. Okay, so Davido is in trouble. Davido has a new art, and the new art, within 3 days after releasing a video, has got 1 million viewers on YouTube. Nigerians won't have any of that. Ha! You don't know these people. Now, an editor goes sit down in front of the camera and says, I am coming for your head, Davido. Why? How does it happen? Why would you have 1 million viewers? What kind of video is it that gives your new act that nobody knows in Nigeria?
But there's a motivation for that. You know, people do these things, they buy their viewers. So then once you see, oh, it has 1 million viewers.
Let me go and look at it.
It has 1 million views. That means it must be very interesting. So let me go look at it. So somebody goes to look at it, and then that way you actually build a lot more views.
Maybe that's what the video is doing. And even by this editor talking about it, I'm sure a lot more people will want to go see the video.
Most of the social media platforms started as a free advertising space.
Okay, so unfortunately we do not have the visuals of the man telling the story. But on the heels of the story I just told you, we decided to speak to a social media strategist to find out why people will go out of their way just to go buy viewers and buy followers, and all that on social media. And Here's what he had to say.
Most of the social media started as a free advertising space, but with time, when they build their numbers, which is the main reason why they are on online, they got billions of numbers. So now you have to pay to access those numbers. You know, so if I want a number of likes, I have to pay for it. If I want a number of engagement or a sizable engagement or reach or eyeballs, I have to pay for it, right? In our market or in our part of the world, the content that sells in Ghana is entertainment, gossip, and politics, right? So mostly you find entertainers getting a lot of engagement. Sometimes you don't even have to pay for them.
People have up to about 2 million, and they post something, you can see just 9 likes, and people say, oh, he bought it. Why has it become that important?
No, you see, we can have a Facebook fan page of 2 million fans, right? If the content is not organic, it will engage. Or if the content is not that interesting, it will engage. So you still have to actually pay to engage those 2 millions. Because let me give you a typical example. If I have 100,000 people on my Facebook page, right, and I put up one post, let's say I go and I say, oh, I'm hanging out with Miss G, and I take a picture and I put it up there. The only people who see it at that time are the people out of the 100,000. You can have just about 10 people online at the time I was posting it. Those ones will see it. It will run on their timelines because I just posted it. After a while, Facebook would then shift it down and give priority to other posts, right? Now, I need to pay Facebook to keep me up there. The celebrities are buying. I know there's a whole lot of Ghanaian celebrities who are paying to remain relevant on social media because for them, it makes their brands relevant. Right? It makes their brands relevant in the sense that they are looking for endorsements. They are looking for various sponsorships. If you tell me Davido just put the video out 3 days ago, you can measure it with other Nigerian videos which have come out, Nigerian interesting videos. They didn't rack up to 1 million views within 3 days. They didn't. Even videos in America don't rack up to 1 million views within 3 days. You understand? It means, for me, as I stand here, if you say 3 days and he had 1 million views, I'm tempted not to believe it. I would then obviously know he spent some money to get a lot of views.
That's interesting.
But it's happening because, of course, if I'll make money out of it, why not? All right, before I go, now, Omomi is one of my favorite Nigerian musicians, you know. Omomi this time around was asked too many questions, and she walked off the interview set.
Oh, so we have another incident of somebody, a celebrity walking off set.
Oh, this time around it's a female, and here's what happened.
Okay, but I was hoping to see the walking.
Yeah, I think that the video, you know, because of time, we couldn't see the entire thing on. But what happened was that she was asked about smoking and abuse of alcohol, and she didn't find that amusing at all. She asked the presenter on and on, do you mean me well? Will you bring me here to talk about these issues? Do you really mean me well? And she was off.
Just a question.
Exactly, just say yes or no. She says, next time, do your digging well. Find out well. Don't bring me here to come and embarrass me. You know, but that's a more on me for you. So on that note, I say that's it for entertainment today.
All right, thank you very much. And you're going to walk off at the end of your show, not walking off because you're angry. Okay, thank you very much. So up next we have sports coming up. Please stay tuned. Right, time for sports, and Gary is the man with it all. Good evening, Gary.
Got it all, really?
Yeah, you've got it all.
Yeah, how many followers did you buy again?
Never bought any follower.
Okay, all right.
We
are all organic.
Are you in the business of buying followers?
Well, probably I should. Charlie boys are brave.
All right. What's up in sports?
Anyway, followers of Liverpool are having a good time at Anfield, but it's on a knife's edge because in the Europa League, they need to come back again to win like they did against Dortmund to qualify for the final. And guess what? Liverpool are leading by 2 goals. These guys love comebacks, don't they? I mean, they just seem to have it in their DNA. So the game started at 1-0, meaning that Sevilla will go through if it had finished that way, and Liverpool have to win. But right now, it's 2-0, a goal from Daniel Sturridge, and an own goal in the first half. But right now, if Villarreal score once,
that's it.
Finito.
Because it's a 2-1 aggregate now in favor of Liverpool.
So if they score, they'll have an away goal, which Liverpool don't have.
Wow.
Yes. And so we can check out what's happening in the other game as well, Shakhtar Donetsk away at Sevilla. Sevilla have won the last 2 Europa Leagues, don't forget. They've won back-to-back already, and they are going into the final the way it's looking, and from the way the highlights were going, they are quite too dominant for Shakhtar Donetsk.
They may just pull it off again.
Yes, back-to-back. That will be a first in European history. So
why don't they at some point try the Champions League?
Well, you have to qualify for the Champions League. The problem is that when Barca and Real by default seem to have taken the 2 spots, these days Atletico Madrid are also too good to, well, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it becomes pretty difficult.
You have to do last.
Yeah.
All right, take it away.
All right, so that's how we begin the sport with the Champions League. But in the race for the title in La Liga, don't forget that potentially we could have 4 La Liga teams in European competition. There's already Real Madrid and Atletico in the Champions League. Sevilla on their way there. If Villarreal beat Liverpool, we'll have 4 in both competitions. So it's a very tough league. Now, the 3 clubs in contention are still in the race. Let's see what the permutations are. Amazing stuff in Spain. However, back in Ghana, but we are changing sport. We are going into the ring. Joshua Clotte's big night with Joseph Agbeko was postponed, leaving a lot of boxing aficionados very sad. However, he's still taking his training seriously, despite the fact that the bout with Anderson Clayton has been moved. Joy Sports Asare Bediako has been to the Atokwashi gym in Jamestown, where the former IBF welterweight champion trains on a daily basis.
Joshua Clotte, a former IBF welterweight champion, trains on daily basis at the Atokwashi Boxing Gym in Jamestown, even though his much-anticipated bout with Brazilian Anderson Clayton has been rescheduled. The bout, which was slated for 29th April at the Accra Sports Stadium, was postponed because of organizational challenges. Even though promoters of the fight are yet to announce a new date, the 38-year-old Joshua Clotte is not relaxing.
I'm a type of fighter who doesn't wait for fight before training. I'm in gym still because I wanted when we set a new date, I'll be ready. I'm a gym rat, so I believe as a fighter you always have to be in the gym. You always have to be in half shape because you never know what is going to happen. I'm a professional fighter. They can call me at anywhere, maybe if not Ghana, US, because I have promoters over there. So stay at gym.
Joshua Clotte, who is eyeing another world title before he bids boxing goodbye, knows his Brazilian opponent Anderson Clayton quite well.
Last 2 weeks, I watched his fight on the internet, and I saw a little bit weak points about him that maybe I wanted to use on him. But you know, boxing is always dangerous, so you always have to get ready for it.
Joshua Clotte's trainer Vicinete has no doubt the hitter will be a world champion again before the end of the year.
This guy is not resting at all. He's never resting. If it's not time, I tell him, oh, now there's no fight, so let's stay for 2 weeks. He said no. So Joshua Clotte, I'm sure, ending of this year, if things go somewhere, he will become a world champion again.
He never rests, doesn't he? He was in our studios a couple of weeks ago and he said same. Changing sports again, this time we are going to the courts, and in the Mutual Madrid Open, Andy Murray is through to the quarterfinal after defeating Gilles Simon. We have the highlights of that and more.